Pretty blessed with our music, would you agree? So a couple of years ago, right around this time, I think it was right around in July, the Board of Trustees and some of our key volunteers got together for a day of discovery that was facilitated by Reverend Marjorie. I had just arrived here in Calgary about just a couple months before that and felt it was important for us all to get together and to establish, just to spend some time together to get on the same page. You know what I'm talking about? Dr. Carroll had left, the building had been sold. We needed to kind of be on the same page. So Reverend Marjorie took us through this wonderful day-long process called appreciative inquiry. Any of you familiar with appreciative inquiry? Yeah, it's a really cool process, right? And when we were done of all of this stuff, and we spent the whole day there, we had crafted 4 guiding principles that we were to use as guidance for our decision-making and moving the center forward. And we shared it with the congregation the day after, that was on a Saturday, the Sunday after that. And then the document became more of an internal document that we used at our board meetings and that type of thing for guidance. But a few months ago, I was feeling like I wanted to add something different into the center, or into the service. So I added the guiding principles to a Sunday service. It kind of is the idea that it would really instill this consciousness, this group consciousness into the center, and to explain to people, our new people, what it is that we stood for. And as you know, like we just did a few minutes ago, we repeat it every week. But recently, I got to thinking, do people really know what it is we mean here? I mean, not everybody was part of the process. Maybe they're repeating it by rote without really having a sense of the depth that the statements really contain. So I decided that for the next 4 weeks, we are going to base our talks, our Sunday talks, on one of the guiding principles. I'm going to explain to you what that particular one means to me, and then you're going to be able to draw your own conclusions. That sound like a plan? Yeah? Are you stoked? Yeah. Like super stoked? Okay, so let me tell you what the first guiding principle. I got to get my fan going. Is it hot in here or is it me? Okay. You know, that's usually the right answer. Okay. So here's our first one. We provide everyone the opportunity to discover and reveal their spiritual potential. Now, I could spend several weeks just on this statement alone because it has such wisdom, it has such depth, it has such promise in it, doesn't it? But in order to really understand this one, we need to accept one premise. And that premise is, we all have spiritual potential within us. We all have spiritual potential within us. I say that because I suspect that there are some people who might be reading and might be saying this statement all the while with the internal dialogue sounding a little something like this. Well, sure, everybody has spiritual potential except me. I'm the exception to the rule because I really am flawed. I mean, after all, I sometimes think bad thoughts, and I'm kind of lazy, and I don't always eat right, and I drive too fast, and I wasn't kind to somebody the other day, and I don't clean my house. And so yeah, I can believe it about other people, even those people I don't like, but it can't possibly be true about me. Anybody? Oh, I've taught you well then. I'm so glad. Because the truth is with the capital T, is that it is true. It is true that everyone has within them spiritual potential. It's true about you, it's true about me, it's true about everybody else. And not just because I'm telling you so. Not just because Ernest Holmes tells you so. Not just because Oprah tells you so. It's true because it is scientifically true. We are all made up of the same stuff, the same essence, the same substance that the entire universe is made of. Do you get that? Here's what Carl Sagan said. The cosmos is also within us. We are made of star stuff. Oh my God! Oh my you! Oh my me! We are made of star stuff. Say that. Do this and say, I am made of star stuff.
I am made of star
The
stuff.
cosmos is within me.
The cosmos is within me.
Well, the cosmos is just another name for God, for the universe, for the force, for the all and everything, for source energy, whatever we call it, it is us. And we are it. Science is also proving that this energy, this substance stuff, that which is underneath everything that we see and taste and smell and touch and experience, everything, that this stuff has limitless potential. It can become anything and everything. Is this making sense to you? You know, the old-time religion said in the Bible adage, with God, all things are possible. With cosmos, with source, with everything like this. The difference is, folks, the difference is some faith traditions, when they're talking about with God all things are possible, they're talking about the guy up in the sky, right? Flowing white beard, flowing white gown, you know, that guy. That guy, you know? Up there, pissed off sometimes, liking somebody sometimes, throwing down lightning bolts, you know, whatever. That's not who we're talking about here. Never. We're talking about the life force energy from which everything comes, including us. Here's how Ernest Holmes put it. Everything in the universe is a unique individualization or expression of the one thing, which is the cause of all things. You should become aware that the one creative power is expressing in you in a unique way, and that it is always pressing against you, seeking a fuller outlet of its infinite possibilities. You do not have to imitate or compete. You are a special creation of God, and you have full access to the unlimited potential of infinite intelligence. Wow is right. Just go like this, because I want you to take that one in. So when we're talking about discovering and revealing our spiritual potential, when we're talking about it in our guiding principles, this is what we're talking about. It's about discovering the true truth about ourselves, that we're each one of us an expression of that infinite intelligence, of that divine potential. And then we are revealing that in our lives. So one of the questions that sometimes comes up is, how come we don't instinctively know this? If we are God in expression, how come so many of us feel sometimes like we're the worm of the earth? Anybody ever feel like you're the worm? Anybody ever brought up that you were a worm of the earth? Okay, yeah. Well, we can chalk that up to old-time religion as well, because back in the day, the church wanted to keep people subservient. They wanted to keep people obedient. So they taught the BS belief system of things like original sin and unworthiness and hellfire and brimstone. I mean, here they are trying to keep people down, right? What would happen if the people actually knew that they were God in expression? They wouldn't be willing to be subservient or obedient. Heaven forbid that they would actually think for themselves, right? So what happened was generation after generation was brought up with this unworthiness consciousness and passed it down from generation to generation, from kid to kid. Now, nobody's doing this on purpose, folks. Of course not. It's just that people don't know what they don't know. As Don Miguel Ruiz talks about in the Four Agreements, it's all part of the collective dream or the collective agreement. From childhood on, we're exposed to this collective consciousness of unworthiness and imperfection. And slowly but surely, we began to believe it. But the irony is, we weren't born with it. Think about babies. Think about babies. Babies come in knowing that they are pretty darn special. Am I right? Babies come in knowing that they are the center of the universe. Absolutely. There's this sweet teaching story about a little girl, 3 or 4 years old, who goes over to the crib where her brand new newborn baby brother is. And she looks at him and she says, "Hey, baby, tell me about God. I'm beginning to forget." So even as insidious as this collective agreement of unworthiness is, I also think there's something more to this idea of us not knowing our spiritual potential right away. And it's much more positive, it's much more life-affirming for why we forget our awesomeness. Because I believe that discovering and revealing our spiritual potential is part of our growth. It's part of our life's curriculum. It's part of our maturation as cosmic beings. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? Think about this. If we didn't have to do the work that we're doing, the work that's necessary to discover and reveal our spiritual potential, would we understand it? Would we appreciate it? Think about somebody who's born into a life of leisure and luxury, right? If you don't know any different, you don't know any different. You think that's the way life really is, right? You don't appreciate it. But if you come into a life of luxury or wealth and abundance after having experienced its opposite, you really get how cool it is, right? So maybe it's true that we need to do the work necessary to really get this idea that we have limitless potential. Is this making sense? Okay, good. Really? Okay. It made a lot of sense to me yesterday when I was putting this together. But here's the key, folks. Not only do we have limitless potential, we are supposed to use it. We are supposed to use it. We are intended to call upon it. We are intended to reveal it. Here's what Ernest Holmes said. He said, "All evolution is an awakening and development of a greater possibility, resulting in an unfoldment of an inherent potential. Since man lives in his consciousness, it follows that a change of consciousness will produce a change in outward manifestation. Hence, we arrive at the idea that man lives in and by his beliefs and opinions, and that could he change these beliefs and opinions, there would be an outward manifestation corresponding to the inner change." In English, that when we change what's here and here, it shows up out here. And it is part of our evolution. It is part of our life's curriculum. So our job is to strive to change our beliefs, to change our own opinions of unworthiness, of not enoughness, in order to discover and reveal that spiritual potential that is within each of us. So we were having a discussion last Tuesday in our E squared class. Those of you who are in E squared, isn't it cool? Are you having fun? Those of you who are in E squared, come look at my necklace after the service, okay? Seriously. If you've done your homework, if you haven't done your homework, don't talk to me. No. If you have done your homework, come see me after the service and look at my necklace, okay? So we're having this discussion in E squared, right? And the purpose, as I've told you before, the purpose of this class is to prove in a very lighthearted way that not only do we have access to this limitless potential and energy, but that we are to use it to enhance our lives. So someone was saying, you know what, I know all this, I know this, and yet sometimes I forget what I know. And I fall back into old habits, and I forget to do the things that I know help keep me on track. And they said it kind of like, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, but everybody in the room has felt like that at one time or another, myself included. So I likened it to what happens when we fall asleep at night. We're never aware of the exact moment that we've fallen asleep, are we? We don't even know that we're asleep until we wake up again. Well, the same thing happens when we fall asleep spiritually. One moment we're going along, we're alive, we're awake, we're alert, we're doing our spiritual work, we're firing on all cylinders, we're self-actualized, we're self-responsible, everything is going well, we're namasteing everybody, we're consciously co-creating with everything, and then, just like what happens at night when we go to bed, we fall asleep again. And we go back into that dream world of victimhood and limitation and fear and negativity and blame and lack. Sometimes we stay there for a while, don't we? Because in our dream state, we have forgotten temporarily what we know and what we know that we know. And then boom, we wake up again, right? Not realizing that we had actually fallen asleep. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah. Here's the good news. The good news is, the more we practice, the more we do the work, the more we put ourselves in situations with like-minded people, the more we study, the more we live full out, the more we discover and reveal our spiritual potential, something really cool happens. We still fall asleep sometimes. It's part of the process. But we fall asleep less often, and we don't stay asleep nearly as long. And when we do wake up again, we're like, oh my gosh, I've been asleep. How did that happen? We are determined to do what's necessary to stay awake more often. Because we get to the point where we recognize when we've been asleep, and we recognize when we're awake, and we really like being awake, so we're going to do whatever we can to be awake at the most. So I love this poem by Rumi. He's a Sufi poet. Sufi is the mystical teaching of Islam, if you didn't know that. He wrote a beautiful poem that speaks to this. He says, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. don't go back to sleep. So what does all this have to do with the first of our guiding principles? We provide everyone the opportunity to discover and reveal their spiritual potential. Well, as your minister, as your spiritual leader, it is not my job to convince you of anything. It's not my job to tell you what to do, how to dress, how to think, how to live. That's not my job. I will never tell you what to think. All I will do is encourage you to think and maybe teach you how to think. And to hold up a mirror in front of you. A mirror that reminds you of who you are. A divine expression of the divine. And should that mirror allow you to discover and reveal your spiritual potential, then I've done my job. And in doing my job, I have further discovered and further revealed my spiritual potential. You understand how that works? Because when we are fulfilling our potential, when we are doing what we came here to do, we act as an example to others. And that is just a tidbit of what we're going to talk about next week. So, love and blessings to all of you. I love you, and so it is.